Kia ora koutou katoa. Autumn is certainly here. It's the day after the autumn equinox and it's feeling like that classic autumn weather. All the leaves are falling off the deciduous trees. We're getting to the ends of the summer harvests. The temperatures have really dropped overnight and the days are now getting shorter. So it's certainly feeling like we're shifting into a different season. I mentioned in my last video January being a very cold, unusual summer month, but then we ticked over into February and we had some really dry, hot, classic summer weather, which was really good for some of the crops. Then we hit the 1st of March, literally the first day of autumn, and the weather completely changed. I think it was with those tropical cyclones coming past. We suddenly got all the rain, the temperatures really dropped, and it certainly felt like straight away we hit the ground running with autumn. Reflecting on the garden this season, I initially thought to myself, it's probably been one of the least productive. I've just got the boys right there. Do you guys want a bit of camera time? Just give me a second, I'll let you have your time. Reflecting on the garden this year, I was initially thinking, man, it wasn't a very productive season. I've definitely had better seasons. And I think I often measure how successful, whatever that is, in the garden I am with how my crops of tomatoes go. And tomatoes have been a lot slower this year and this season on the whole, but that is probably because of only having February as the only proper summer month, really. But when I really think about and look at it, I've still been harvesting tomatoes. I've even managed to make a chutney out of the tomatoes that we've had in excess. So all in all, it's gone okay. I think there's just one year it was the perfect conditions for tomatoes and I had an absolute bumper crop, and so it's really easy now to make that the bar, and like I've got to get there. But in gardening, every season is different and you've just got to accept and embrace it at times. And the other thing as well is my son has been eating enough tomatoes for about 5 people, and so that's a win, you know. He's consuming really good kai from his whenua, so that makes me happy, and that's better than having a few jars of passata in the cupboard. So although I'm not viewing this year as a failure or anything, there are certainly some crops that haven't done well, such as my melons, capsicums and eggplants. And I've had a few comments from my last video with suggestions on how to improve that, which I'll look into in the next season. But again, look, some things are just not going to grow great in certain years. Yeah, a big part of it's down to my gardening skill, but a part of it has been growing things outdoors with the season that we've had here, with January being quite a cold season where it's normally quite hot. In saying that though, when I've stopped to think about it, while I haven't reached the pinnacle of what I have before with tomatoes, there are other crops in the mara that have gone quite well. I've had a really humming harvest of potatoes that we're still continuing to use, and it's only over a really small patch of earth, and it's sort of given me potato dreams to even increase the area of planting space I use for potatoes next year, because that's something that stores very well also. Zucchinis have also gone just fine. Yeah, I've had more prolific crops in the past. It's kind of funny with the zucchinis and the tomatoes, because in this month in March and then in January, the zucchinis were producing really well, and we're still getting some at the moment. They're starting to get this powdery mildew because they're coming towards the end of their life and the colder part of the season. But then in February they didn't produce as well, and that was because of inconsistent watering from the weather, but also me, of course. But then in February, with the drier, hotter weather, that was when the tomatoes were absolutely pumping. And now the tomatoes have slowed down with the wetter, colder weather. So my garden's giving me different things at different conditions with the weather. One really important activity for me at this time of the year is seed saving. And it's like I've said in a previous video, it's this kind of pact an agreement we have with our vegetables. It's like, you know, if you produce well for me, I will save your seed and nurture your offspring to come through in the next year. And it's just like that, because I will ignore the plants that haven't done very well, and I'll pick the plants that have the best looking vegetables and then use their seeds to save for next year. And that's because I'm trying to pick the most genetically strong plants to take through for the next season, and also the plants that I know are going to be best suited to this climate. And it's something I feel that the more years I go on and the more generations seedlings have been on this whenua, just the better and better the vegetables grown here are going to get. So it's really exciting and a long-term relationship that I'll continue on. The changeable summer, going from cold, hot, cold, I'm kind of including March and summer, has actually come with a bit of a silver lining too. There's been another flush of raspberries that have come about, and it's been really great to have another wee burst of berries just as summer's starting to end. And I've also been super impressed that there's been continual strawberries coming off some plants in a guild I have under a pear tree, and so that has meant we've been able to eat berries a lot longer through the season than I'm typically used to. Autumn is absolutely harvest time. It's where it's like, okay, all the hard work you've done over the summer has come and you've got an abundance of crops, and now it's time to reap the rewards and save them over the coming seasons. And so the black peaches have finally become ripe, and they have been just gorgeous and beautiful. If you get the perfect ripe one, it's the juice and sweetness is just incredible. Ask my son, he's a real advocate for him. He'll eat about 6 a day if he can. The one thing is though, the juice stains terribly and his clothes are now covered in peach juice stains, but hey, it's good fruit that he's getting into him. We've recently harvested most of what we can off the trees and bottled them in a sugar syrup to preserve them over the next year. And we'll thoroughly enjoy having those and opening a can of those or a bottle of those every now and then. And so it's that time where suddenly you're bringing everything from the mara and into the kitchen, and it's that stirring over big stock pots and cooking things up. It's those classic activities that you tend to do at this time of year, and it's just great because it means the harvest is preserved now throughout the year and we can use various things. I've also certainly felt the seasonal shift in the types of kai I'm now harvesting. So I've got in a lot of my brassicas for the winter, and fingers crossed they're looking pretty good. But I've interplanted bok choy with the brassicas, and they tend to mature a lot faster, and so we're getting a really good harvest of those, and then combining that with like homegrown spring onions and chilies, and it makes for some really nice sort of Asian style dishes. And the great thing is I can sort of pack them together, because once the bok choy are harvested, then the brassicas are getting to a size where they're starting to overcrowd a bit anyway. So it's perfect for filling in the space. And I'll probably try and sow another round of bok choy just because it is so delicious and we love it, and it seems to be growing really well right now. As I mentioned in the last video, the biggest thing at the moment is having the netting over the brassicas, because the white butterfly are still around and abundant. As soon as the sun shines through, they all awaken and want to lay their eggs all over my vegetables. And then it's funny, as soon as I know the weather's starting to cool and the white butterfly are no longer flourishing, the slugs are going to come straight in with the wet weather, and they can be a real gnarly for the winter brassicas. I have battled with slugs for years and tried every technique you've thought of, I'm sure, okay? And I'll honestly say the method that's worked best for me, more than anything else with slugs, is habitat control. If I can just make sure that there's as few areas for the slugs to hide as possible around my winter vegetables, that tends to deter them a bit. I also have to just accept there are going to be slugs. And so, also important, it has been to get my brassicas to a decent size so they can just tolerate a little bit of slug damage. And then if those brassicas are healthy and I'm treating the soil right, they should be able to withstand a bit of pest pressure. But yeah, I've tried everything for slugs, you name it, and just habitat control and getting vegetables healthy into a good size is probably the best approach I have. Look, in a garden such as mine, you're going to get pests. They are part of the ecosystem. But my hope is pests also attract predators as well. And so I've seen a number of tiger slugs also through the mudder, and I'm pretty sure they eat ordinary slugs. So yeah, it's just trying to get that balance right and accepting there are going to be casualties from time to time. It's okay. And now I'll quickly just go over the animals as well. I've got the boys, you probably won't be able to see them in the shot, the two cattle beasts that are hanging out beside me at the moment. They're putting on really steady weight, and I'm really happy with the condition of them and how they look. I'm finding that the feed situation's going really well at the moment. I know that could all change in winter, but I do have baleage as backup. I really think I've locked in with the grazing method pretty well. Just sort of that rotational grazing of having them on a small piece of pasture for a short amount of time and then moving them on just really allows the vegetation to regrow and replenish itself while fertilizing. It also means that the animals are coming off their own poo as well and not sitting in the same area, and so that means I hope that they might be a little less susceptible to parasite pressures like worms that can be in their feces. I mean, you read about rotational grazing systems, and in the wild, naturally, animals tend to stick to an area of pasture and then move on away from their toilet to another bit fairly rapidly. And I guess that's in essence what I'm kind of trying to mimic here. We have just been through that always difficult but time that's full of gratitude of slaughtering one of the sheep that are here on the property. A few weeks ago I slaughtered Doug was his name. He was the last wether Wiltshire sheep that we had here on the property. I'll respectfully say his death was really calm and quick and peaceful. The sheep are so used to me that they have almost not enough fear in me. They tend to follow me just as much as I shoo them along. But yeah, Doug has now been butchered and we have a freezer full of beautiful lamb. I've enjoyed an awesome roast of his, and just that meat is just like nothing else. I'm sorry, it's not like the supermarkets. When you have an animal that's really healthy and dies in a really calm and respectful way, it just reflects in the meat. And so I'm incredibly grateful for Doug. I hate the slaughtering process, but I love the reward and the relationship that I get with my kai. I'm by no means an expert butcher or home kill processor at all. The main bit I can do right is kill the animal really humanely and quickly. But yeah, it's still like a real process with trying to pull the animal apart and skin it and gut it, and I'm certainly not talented in that area at all. One silver lining is I'm no longer needing to follow YouTube videos or an instruction manual. It's starting to get slowly ingrained in me. But it's a really special process to, you know, raise an animal and see its life through and, you know, relate to it most days, and then, yeah, come to the end of its life with it and have the reward of it nourishing mine and my family's life and having really awesome quality food from it. I think I'd love that to be more of the norm again. And then finally, the Orpington chickens are going well. They have certainly slowed down in their egg laying, but still getting some consistent eggs, particularly the, you know, I'll call them out, the number one birds being Siri and Sylvie, I would say. They're the most reliable layers at the moment. The first flush of Geralt's chicks are grown to a really good size. We've got 4 roosters, which I'll be looking to probably process in the next few months. Gerald's second flush of babies are doing really well. The Orpington and a lot of heirloom breeds are slower growing, so they're not like those Cornish cross or cob chickens that can mature in 6 weeks and suddenly you got a full carcass. Like I expected, I have had one casualty to the hawks. One of the chicks was picked up and eaten by a hawk, and so we are down to 9. And while it's sad, look, I've come to accept it. It's going to happen. It's an offering to the wildlife, I guess, and something that the hawks can have. I'd like that to be the last one they take, if I'm honest. But yeah, it is just one of those things. Animals will die time to time. They're at an age now where they are getting out of the hutch and flying out of it. Like, they're sick of being in there, and I do feel sorry for them. But I'll keep them in there for as long as possible, because that is where they're best protected from the hawks and can get to maturity where it will no longer be an issue for them. So all in all, that's a pretty good overview of what's going on the wee property at the moment. And just like that, I can't believe a summer season is over and now we're harvesting. It sort of comes and goes before you know it, and now I'm thinking about the winter garden and sowing garlic probably in April, which sort of signifies the start of the year in a lot of ways, that first garlic bed that goes in. But now it's time to work hard and make the most of the final harvests, and then we're going to really slow down as we approach the winter solstice. I always love summer and love the heat, but I am learning to appreciate the other seasons and the slower paces as well. If you did make it this far, thank you very much for watching the video. Ka kite, hanoa.